Tired of the endless parade of here are the 5 best books or this famous person swears by these 20 books you absolutely must read? Let's be honest, another list of must reads is probably just going to collect dust on our desk while you scroll social media under the guise of productivity. That's where this episode comes in. I'm not here to hand you another title to feel guilty about not reading. Today, we're going to unpack the practical insights from another game changing book that can transform the way you think, lead, and grow. Today, we're diving into Robert Cialdini's Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. This seminal work by Cialdini uncovers 6 key principles: reciprocity, commitment, consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity that drive our decisions. By combining engaging research with real world examples, Cialdini illustrates how these psychological triggers shape our behavior in everyday life and provide strategies to recognize and counteract these manipulative tactics. So let's skip the fluff, dig into the gold, and put these insights to work. Welcome to the Good Leadership Podcast, where we explore the stories, strategies, and insights of thought leaders who inspire us to think differently and lead better. Through candid conversations and expert perspectives, we dive into the challenges, breakthroughs, and practical lessons that shape exceptional leadership. Principle number 1, the reciprocity principle. You're in a grocery store just browsing, and then a smiling lady with a tray of smoked Gouda on toothpick spears comes to you and says, "Would you like to try a sample?" Of course you do. It's free. No strings attached, right? Except 10 minutes later, you're standing in the checkout line holding a $25 block of cheese that wasn't even on your list. That, my friends, is the reciprocity rule in action. The moment you took the gift, your brain went, "I owe them now." And suddenly, buying that cheese feels polite. Now, if you think the cheese sample is dangerous, imagine entire organizations built on this mind trick. Enter the Hare Krishnas. Flashback to the 1970s. Airports were full of Hare Krishna members handing out free flowers to unsuspecting travelers. But here's the catch. Once the flower was in your hand, they would not take it back. And seconds later, they'd ask for a donation. People gave money, not because they wanted to, but because they felt like they needed to, since they were rejecting the gift if they did not. The genius of this is it worked on everyone. It didn't matter if you liked the Hare Krishnas or their cause. The reciprocity rule overpowered your personal feelings about them. But reciprocity isn't just about free gifts, it's also about negotiation. And here's where things get trickier. Imagine someone knocks on your door and asks you to buy a $10 raffle ticket to a school fundraiser. Maybe it's a neighborhood kid. You decline because, well, you have other things to do with your $10. But then this child immediately follows up with, "Okay, how about a $1 chocolate bar instead?" Boom. You're now the proud owner of a chocolate bar you never wanted. Why? Because compared to the first request, the second one felt reasonable. This is called the rejection then retreat strategy, a sneaky negotiation tactic where someone asks you for something big first, knowing you're going to say no, just so that the next request seems like a fair compromise. So what did we learn? Recognize the setup. Before saying yes to a free sample, ask yourself, is this actually free or is it a strategy to make me feel obligated? Don't let guilt guide your decisions. If you don't want something, don't buy it out of politeness. Businesses count on you feeling too awkward to walk away. Be aware of the negotiation trick that if someone's first request is huge and their second request suddenly seems more reasonable, then stop and ask, would I have agreed to this if this was the only offer? And most importantly, practice saying no. Whether it's a freebie or a sales pitch, you don't owe anyone anything just because they gave you something first. Have you ever been tricked into doing something way bigger than you intended? Imagine a volunteer knocks on your door and asks you to put a tiny sticker in your window that says, "Be a safe driver." Seems harmless, right? So you agree. A few weeks later, they're back, only this time they're asking you to put a giant billboard in your front yard that says, "Drive carefully." Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, in a real study, 76% of the people who agreed to the tiny sticker also agreed to the billboard. Why? Because saying no would be inconsistent with their previous decision to support safe driving. Their brains went, "Well, I already committed to it, so I might as well go all in." When you go and buy a car, negotiate a great deal, and shake hands on it, have you ever noticed that suddenly the price goes up because of a mistake? Maybe you forgot to account for the taxes, right? Or they forgot to tell you about the financing fees. But now you're committed to buying this car and you just go with it, even though you never would have agreed to the higher price up front. This is called lowballing, a strategy where salespeople get you to say yes to the decision first, then tweak the deal after the brain has already locked in that commitment. So, what did we learn? Pause before saying yes. Ask yourself, is this a small step towards something bigger? Be careful with public commitments. If you say or write something publicly, you're more likely to stick with it. So make sure it truly reflects your beliefs. And watch out for sales tactics. If a deal changes after you've committed, you are not obligated to go through with it. Sticking to a bad decision doesn't make it a good one. The next principle, social proof. Let's talk about why we blindly trust the crowd and how to stop from getting duped by the herd. Have you ever noticed how bartenders put a few dollar bills in the tip jar before anyone is tipped? Or how evangelical preachers seem to magically get people to rush to the stage during altar calls? That's not luck, that's manufactured social proof. Bars salt their tip jars with fake money to signal that tipping is normal. Preachers plant fake converts in the crowd to encourage real ones to follow. And advertisers, they love throwing around phrases like best selling, most popular, or fastest growing because they don't have to convince you that the product is good. They just have to convince you that everyone else thinks so. Have you ever wondered why homicides spike after a heavyweight fight, or why suicide rates go up when one is widely publicized? That's called the Werther effect. It's the dark side of social proof. When people read about someone committing suicide or other troubled people, see it as a model for their own struggles. And it doesn't stop at suicides. Highly publicized violent crimes also inspire copycats. The media unknowingly broadcasts a blueprint. Here's what someone did, here's why they did it, and here's how much attention they got for it. And suddenly, similar instances start popping up. So what do we do? Pause before following trends. Ask yourself, is this actually good? Or does it just look good because everyone else is doing it? Check for fake social proof. Just because someone is labeled popular or best-selling doesn't mean it is. For real reviews, look at other sources, not marketing hype. Be aware of the media's influence. Sensationalized news can create ripple effects. So pay attention to how coverage frames events and who benefits from that attention. And make independent choices. Just because the crowd is moving in one direction doesn't mean it's the right one. So think before you follow. Ever been invited to one of those parties where you show up for snacks and small talk only to realize that it's a sales pitch? That's the liking principle at work. Tupperware parties, Mary Kay, essential oils. These businesses thrive because they use friends as salespeople. You're not just buying plastic containers, you're supporting Susan. And turning down Susan, well, that feels rude. And if that's not enough, they use the endless chain technique, where they get you to refer more friends to the next party, making that cycle never ending. But liking isn't just about friendship. Sometimes it's about something even more powerful, looks. Let's talk about the halo effect. Because let's be honest, life is easier for attractive people. Studies show it time and time again that we automatically assume good-looking people are also smart, kind, and trustworthy. And it's why attractive people get lighter prison sentences, are more likely to get hired, and are even more persuasive because we assume they're right. And the wild part, we don't even realize we're doing it. But it's not just looks that make us like people. Sometimes it's just because they seem to be just like us. Have you ever noticed how some salespeople just magically seem to have that same interest that you have? You grew up in Ohio? Wow, what a coincidence. You have a dog? I have too. That isn't fate. That's a strategy. Studies show that we like people who are similar to us, even in small, superficial ways. That's why marketers, politicians, and salespeople fake similarities to build instant rapport. But if pretending to be similar doesn't work, don't worry. There's always an easier trick to fall onto, and that's flattery. Flattery works even when it's fake. We are absolute suckers for compliments, even when we know someone has an agenda. Even when flattery is clearly false, we still fall for it. In one study, participants liked a person just as much when they gave them completely untrue compliments of themselves as when the compliments were real. Our brain doesn't care. It just feels good. So how do you overcome the liking principle? Pause before you say yes. Ask yourself, am I agreeing because I actually want this or because I feel obligated? Spot the halo effect. When you find yourself drawn to someone's idea, ask, am I judging their idea or just their appearance? Question coincidences. If a salesperson shares an uncanny number of similarities with you, recognize it is a report building tactic. Filter the flattery that you receive. Compliments are good, but before acting on them, consider, are they buttering me up to get something? And be wary of the on your side trick. Whether it's a boss, salesperson, or politician, if someone positions themselves as your ally, check their motives before you buy. In hospitals, no one questions the doctor. It's the rule. If the doctor says double the dosage, nurses do it. If the doctor prescribes the wrong drug, no one challenges it. This obedience makes sense. Doctors are the experts, right? But what happens when an expert makes a mistake? Studies show that even when a doctor orders a clearly incorrect dosage of something, hospital staff often never question them. Why? Because they're trained from childhood to obey authority. And this just isn't in medicine, this happens everywhere. The higher up says jump, we don't ask, should I? We just ask, how high? But here's the scary part, people don't even need to be real experts to gain power. They just need to look the part. Imagine you're walking down the street and a man in a police uniform tells you to move your car. You'd probably do it without thinking, right? Now imagine a random guy in jeans and t-shirts tells you the same thing. Your first thought is, who are you and why are you talking to me? That's the power of clothing. Research shows that when someone dresses like an authority figure, a doctor's white coat, a police badge, or even just a really nice suit, people automatically trust them more. And con artists, they know this. They don't need to be doctors, officers, or executives. They just need to dress like one. And suddenly people hand over their money and their trust and their compliance. And if clothes weren't enough, titles make this even worse. Titles are the easiest way to fake authority. Take TV commercials. Ever notice how doctors recommend toothpaste, but when you read the fine print, they're just actors? Or how people with consultant or advisor in their job titles sound more important, but you have no idea what they actually do? When people look successful, we assume they have power, even when they don't. So, how to avoid this blind obedience? Question authority. Just because someone has a title or wears a uniform doesn't mean they're right. Ask, is their expertise real? Verify, don't assume. If a doctor, manager, or expert gives instructions, double check them, especially when something feels off. Look past the packaging. Don't be fooled by fancy clothes, big titles, or luxury goods. Ask yourself, is this person actually credible, or do they just look the part? And trust, but think. Authority can be helpful, but blind obedience is dangerous. Before following orders, pause and ask, does this make sense? Have you ever gone to buy something online and right before you check out, you see only 2 left in stock? Now suddenly you have to buy it, even if you weren't sure about it before. Now you're panicked because if you don't act now, it could be gone forever. That's the limited number tactic, a sales trick designed to make you want something more simply because it's in short supply. Appliance stores, car dealerships, and airlines love this trick. They tell you that there's only one left or that someone else is about to buy it, so you need to commit right now before you can actually think about whether you need it. But if only a few left doesn't get you, there's another way to trigger urgency, and that's through artificial deadlines. You see this sign saying 1 day sale that magically appears every single week. That's the deadline tactic, where companies put a fake time limit on a deal to pressure you into rushed decisions. Have you ever noticed how people want what they can't have? That's why parents telling teenagers to stay away from someone makes them fall harder. It's called the Romeo and Juliet effect. We want something that's forbidden, and we want it a lot more as a result. It's why banned books sell better. It's why limited editions fly off shelves. It's why relationships get more intense when they face resistance. The second something feels like it's being taken away, we convince ourselves it must be valuable and we want it more. But scarcity doesn't just make us want things, it makes us believe that they're better than they actually are. It warps our perception. Let's say you're at a bakery and there are plenty of cookies on display. You take one, it's good, nothing special. Now imagine you grab one and the worker says, "Oh, sorry, we only have 2 left." suddenly that cookie tastes better in your mind. It feels exclusive, like you're lucky to have it. Studies show that when something is scarce, we automatically believe it's more valuable, even when it's identical to what is widely available. And if you really want to see scarcity in action, just add competition. Ever seen people physically fight over TVs on Black Friday? I know I have. That's the scarcity plus social demand combo in action, when something is not only rare, but other people want it too. So, what do we learn? Pause before you buy. Ask yourself, would I still want this if it weren't limited or almost gone? Ignore fake deadlines. If a deal expires soon, check it out to see if it magically reappears next week. Question your desires. If you're craving something, ask yourself, do I actually want this, or do I want this because I might lose the opportunity or chance to get it because it's in short supply? Resist competitive buying. If you're rushing to buy because someone else wants it, step back. You're not shopping, you're now competing. All right, what have we learned today? We've learned we're all susceptible to persuasion more than we think. Marketers, salespeople, and even our friends know exactly how to push our buttons. But once you recognize these tactics, you can fight back. So here's your challenge for the week. Pay attention to when you feel pressured into a decision, whether it's a salesperson, a limited time deal, or even someone giving you a free sample at the mall. Before you say yes, pause and ask yourself, am I being influenced, or is this something I genuinely want? Would I make the decision if there were no pressure at all? Because knowledge is power, and the more you understand about how influence works, the less likely you are to be played. And hey, if you found this episode useful, funny, or slightly unsettling, do me a favor. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, share it with a friend, and leave a review. I hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights. If it has, I ask you to share it with someone who would also benefit from it. If you've been enjoying and gaining knowledge from this podcast, then subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find all the previous episodes of the podcast and additional learning resources. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify and leave up to a 5-star review.